My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and the grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. In today's Gospel, we encounter Jesus teaching in the synagogue. And as he teaches, it's clear that there is something special about him, because he's not teaching by quoting from some authority, but with his own authority. He's teaching in the synagogue. In our case, the synagogue is our heart. Jesus wants to be there speaking to us. And so Jesus speaks to us because we are listening and we want your words to sink in and change our lives. Jesus teaches with authority, differently from the way the scribes do it. He has an effortless authority. In the case of the scribes, their teachings depended on what others had said or written. But Jesus teaches with authority, his own authority. I recall a priest who shared his remembrance of the visit of Mother Teresa of Calcutta to their seminary, and he related how his eyes were automatically drawn to her, and of how she captivated those present in that encounter with a very simple message. And that message is, God loves you. And the priest, telling the story, admitted that at that moment they had a taste of someone teaching with authority. Mother Teresa's simplicity in both her bearing and words proclaimed her belief. She spoke softly, but with sincerity, telling them, God loves you. And she did not use big or complicated words. She allowed her heart to speak and let her faith shine through her words. Now, none of us here is a Mother Teresa, but we can also speak with the authority and the inspiration of Jesus. The more we know him through our prayer, the more we will want to proclaim him with our lives, with our words. There are many people who will not hear about Jesus and his good news if we don't tell them. People whose salvation may depend greatly on us. It's Jesus whom we are proclaiming. And St. John Paul II challenged us many years ago. We should have that holy stubbornness to proclaim the good news to everyone. The same good news that Mother Teresa so convincingly shared in the story I mentioned earlier. Sometimes you may wonder how well you proclaim the good news of Jesus. But as a priest, I have learned to become more animated when I tell stories, when I share the faith with all sorts of people. I vary my voice, my gestures, sometimes my facial expressions to make the story more lively. Sometimes I even have to exaggerate the story. But I realized when I talk about the good things that God has done for me, the enthusiasm comes out naturally. Like maybe a lunch invitation from a friend, just as when I am feeling going on low battery because of an overload of work. Or maybe a providential extension of a work deadline when I can't finish my work on time because I lack inspiration. My enthusiasm comes out naturally when I share with people my list of answered prayers. Like perhaps of a loved one who has gotten a bit off track because of wrong decisions, but who has gone back to the right track. And a long list of answered prayers. It always works to remind people that God has been working in our lives always for our good. And that has helped me reawaken people's interest in God. And I feel like I share my faith with authority, not because of me, but because of the credibility of God's good interventions in my life. So when we tell our story, our blessing-filled life is more than authoritative to convince people that God loves us and that we should love Him in return. There are many situations where the good news has to be proclaimed. And you and I will just have to be living witnesses, authoritative witnesses to God's love and goodness. In some places, the culture is no longer Catholic, but worse than that, some people can't even hear what we're saying. Some can even think that we are no fun and that we're backwards and angry. But we should have that holy stubbornness to proclaim the good news to everyone. That's why I found it so refreshing to learn of a microbrewery which operates on the grounds of the Sisters of St. Benedict Monastery in Indiana in the States. They offer beers based on German monastic recipes, and in the process they boldly proclaim their motto of pray, work, and brew. And after a year of operation, the brewery's tasting room is routinely packed. They sell out their specialty beers almost as quickly as they bring them to the market. People buy their t-shirts, they drink out of their glasses, and they carry their beer containers into their homes. And whenever customers do this, they're not just carrying the logo of a new beer. They're carrying a stylized version of the St. Benedict medal out into the world. And the brewery even hosted a spiritual retreat where the participants could spend the day learning about beer and the history of beer making while they meditated on scriptures. So the brewers are preaching and they're spreading Benedictine spirituality through beers. And they spread the spirituality of pray, work, and brew. So St. Benedict's Brew has become a beer that urges both prayer and work. And the producers of that beer are so in love with their God that they're willing to plaster His symbol on everything, even on a delicious wheat beer. And those Catholic brewers are preparing their post-Christian nation for re-evangelization. In our case, let's be bearers of the good news of Jesus to everyone. As Jesus speaks with authority in the synagogue, we are reminded today that all of us are sent on a mission to speak for Him with His power and conviction. And the mission field can be our home, where a parent or a sibling might need to be brought to Christ. Or our mission area could be our professional organizations, where colleagues live as if Christian values were reserved for Sunday only. Or our neighborhood could be our mission field, where we are sent to bring peace and harmony to people who distrust each other. So Jesus, our prayer today is that we too are given the grace and the courage so that others will know your good news to our words and actions. Strengthen us, Jesus, to go forth and witness to the gospel in our everyday life. And in moments of hesitation, remind me, if not me, then who will proclaim the gospel? If not now, then when will the gospel be proclaimed? And if not the truth of the gospel, then what shall I proclaim? And finally, we turn to our Mother Mary, that she may help us to carry out this mission of evangelization, a mission that falls to us. Mary, you are the help of Christians. we entrust ourselves to you in the work of carrying the gospel ever deeper into the hearts and lives of all the people. Help us to say our own yes to the urgent call, as pressing as ever, to proclaim the good news of Jesus. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations that you have communicated to me in this meditation. I ask your help to put them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.